That door was definitely not her business. No permissions, no alerts, only a master key and a smug grin. But her expression was a frown the second she stepped in. The hallway lights turning on revealed 2 police officers, not waiting for me, but for her. This setup was not a wellness check, but a trap. And it all unfolded because of a $75 fee for a mailbox painted too brightly. An HOA warning promptly turned into an egregious violation of privacy, a control battle, and a stand I was not backing down from. They expected me to surrender, to pay up and issue an apology. Instead, I set out to make sure every single one of my neighbors paid attention after they decided to break into my home. The initial question that comes to mind is, how do you fight back when the people meant to protect your community have turned into your tormentors? Answer: one call, the call I was never meant to make. That was the starting point for the mailbox. A $75 fine for a colonial beige mailbox turned to sunflower yellow. My mailbox was painted a sunflower yellow, and as I mentally giggled at the HOA notice, another one crept into my mailbox, along with overdue stacks. I genuinely chuckled, until it hit me that they weren't joking. The HOA board had a color palette printed and laminated within a 42-page rulebook that I never received. For the aesthetic harmony of the neighborhood, the letter stated, signed, K. Whitmore, President. Whitmore is a clear Karen and a quintessential example of the stereotype. Directly 3 doors down from my home, she resided in a perfectly manicured house that was dollhouse-esque. Every single aspect of her house was perfectly aligned, in complete order. Not a single leaf was out of place, and her lawn was treated better than a pristine golf course. Now, she apparently is the self-declared guardian of my curb appeal. I decided to pay the fine just to make it go away, and in my eyes, avoid further issues. As soon as I paid, they took it as weakness and compliance. It was as if a pack of wolves, all at once, began attacking a single piece of meat. I had to face the HOA's compliance. Wolves. Faster, harder, and hangrier as each minute passed without submission. At my home, I had a pair of potted plants for 2 weeks on my front porch. Obstruction of the walkway and a potential tripping hazard is what they claimed. None of my neighbors complained when my other neighbor had a motorcycle parked on his lawn. Yet a couple of my petunias to call home was a violation. Another $125 fine. The blinds were next. Yes, the blinds. One of the blinds was left open for some time while watching TV, and I was caught on the blinds camera. Exterior visibility of interior window treatments, not in compliance with neutral tone policy. 3 reads, and it finally registered. Apparently the blinds needed to be off-white. Not cream, not ivory, but pearl sand. I snapped. I reached out to the board. Calm, reasonable, it was all there. All I needed was to speak to someone, and I mean anyone, available to clarify my window treatments, only to get bounced around 4 different times. Voicemail, return calls, leaving messages, nothing, complete silence. That was until the next fine came around. $200 for failure to respond to official correspondence. This was all them, weaponizing bureaucracy. And the worst part? They were winning. The real turning point for me, however, was when I was fined because of my dog, Luna, my rescue mutt. The backyard was a slice of heaven for her. She'd lie there, tail thumping, blissfully unaware she was violating a code. She could not be outside, even in my own yard, according to the new pet outdoor supervision policy. Noise and liability concerns. The bare bones explanation. Ignore the Johnson's kids who spent hours screaming on their trampoline, or the band practicing in the garage at 7 a.m. on Sundays. My dog, however, posed a different problem. It was the answer to the question no one was asking, and I chose to ignore it. So, life with a dog meant more fines, then a warning. Repeated violations may result in legal action or liens on the property. That marks the point in time for me to commence work. For me, it involves late nights and indulgence in coffee and spreadsheets. The list of documents that I should work on includes the meeting minutes and bylaws. Nothing that I found was just petty. Everything I found was corrupt. Each board meeting was conducted without prior notification. Decisions were made on votes that were unanimous, with 3 members being present. Who were those 3 members? Oh, right. Karen and her 2 closest friends. The contracts pertaining landscaping work, providing security services, and even the one for the installation of the mailbox were done through his company, which was owned by her brother-in-law. The services that were provided were overpriced, underqualified, and we were all paying through our dues. This did not relate to rules. The objective was to exert control. In this situation, I requested for an emergency town hall, cited bylaws, and filed documents that were provided. They chose to ignore those documents. So I decided to publicize that information on Facebook. Then I went on to Nextdoor, and ultimately Reddit. The growth the thread received was astounding. Multiple neighbors stepped forward with information. One of the neighbors was fined for letting her children market onto the neighborhood for lemonade. Another one was a war veteran who was told the flag he owned was too large. The group of neighbors that once were outliers, now were a consolidation, have come to a conclusion. Contrary to popular belief, I was not the issue. The issue was her. So unlike the popular belief that I would never do this, I did. I chose to fight back and chose legal action. I got myself a real estate attorney. Not some referral from a list the HOA hands out. A real referral. One who fought for homeowner rights and against HOA abuse. And that's when the real trouble started. First, the whispers. She's stirring up trouble. Wants to ruin the neighborhood. Then came the mindless violence. My tires were slashed. My recycling bin was dumped in the street. Pay your fines was keyed into my driveway. I reported it, and the police came, took notes. But without forced entry evidence, there was little they could do. Checking the HOA portal, I saw a new message. Routine wellness inspection conducted at 10:14 a.m. No concerns noted. K. Whitmore. Wellness inspection? On my property? Without consent? I froze. They had used a master key and were actually at my house while I was at work, doing who knows what in my home, going through my things. That's when the truth hit me that fines and rules were the least of my worries. They wanted to send a message. I was supposed to be terrified, but I wasn't. I was ready. If they thought my silence could be bought by breaking into my house, they were in for a shocking surprise. A police report that had been sitting on my kitchen table felt like a bomb ready to explode. I filed it as soon as I noticed the HOA had walked into my house without my permission. The HOA had committed a felony in most states without written permission or a warrant. My attorney, a fierce woman named Diane Cho, who had spent 2 decades fighting HOAs, read it and looked up fiercely as if some fire was in her eyes. "This isn't just a violation," she said. "It's a career-ending mistake for them. We didn't delay. We filed a civil suit as trespassing, invasion of privacy, breach of fiduciary duty, and emotional distress within 2 days. We also subpoenaed the HOA's financial records, meeting logs, and security key access logs. And because of Diane's belief in nuclear options, we also filed a formal complaint with the State Attorney General's office for potential criminal misconduct. Everything went dead silent in the neighborhood. No messages, no fines, and Karen Whitmore took a leave of absence from the board. But it was too late. While the legal processes progressed, I did something far more dangerous in their eyes. I publicly exposed them. I posted a video, not some edited, dramatized nonsense. Just me sitting in my living room, displaying the pile of fines, showcasing the time-stamped photo of my front door, and playing the audio of my 911 call. I told the truth. Everything. The mailbox, the dog, the blinds, the slashed tires, the stolen laptop. And then I uttered the words that would ripple across the internet. They didn't just find me. They tried to break me. But I own my home, and no one gets to take that from me. I uploaded it on Reddit, Facebook, YouTube. 24 hours later, it had 500,000 views. Within 3 days, it had been picked up by the local news, then national news. HOA breaks into homeowner's house, then faces backlash, was the phrase blaring the headlines. A local reporter found out that Karen's sister's landscaping business had been fined twice for inappropriate pesticide use, and yet the HOA had given him a contract for $68,000. Neighbors started coming forward. The woman with the lemonade stand, the veteran with the flag, a man who was fined for drying his clothes outside during a power outage. The list grew. A petition was passed. Remove the board. Restore transparency. The pressure was relentless. Mid-meeting, 2 weeks later, the entire HOA board resigned. In silence, refusing to look at anyone. In the courtroom, the real justice was dished out. The words the judge spoke were unfiltered. She had authority over community areas and beautification, she argued, but not over constitutional violations, such as a homeowner's right to privacy and security. The HOA's trespassing accusation was maintained. They were found liable too,